Hi everyone. So I am doing a couple of book reviews of what I've been reading lately. I have been really slow with my books lately. I actually checked my Goodreads because I do like a Goodreads challenge like every year, like reading challenge. Of course, I don't really push myself to read a lot of books, but I try to at least maintain like a similar amount. It actually says I'm like 4 books behind my goal. I've just been really slow this month. June, and also coming in this month. You would think that my children being off for summer break, I'd have more of a, more time to read, but no, that's clearly not the case. So I ended up reading Soul Eater by Mayne. Now this is a male fantasy monster apocalyptic type romance. So we've got the characters of Wynn and Danny. Now Wynn is a soul eater. Now this is a badass. You do not want to be near him because you're thinking he's gonna kill you. So Danny and the other troops, because he's a part of the military, they go as basically the military kind of like thrusts them as bait, Danny and the other soldiers. And so one night they're trying to trap the soul eater, and Danny just freezes. He's like, I don't know what to do in this situation. He just sees like the soul eater, just taking out, the soldiers, taking out everybody there. And he ends up like passing out, because the soul eater is coming toward him, and he just faints. He ends up waking up, and he's at the base, where he normally is. But the military is basically saying like, hey, you need to go in this room. We have the soul eater. You need to talk to him because he will not talk to anybody else. You need to talk to him. So Danny's like kind of like, why does he want to talk to me? He's a bit like, he's terrified of the soul eater, but he also is very much intrigued with him. So they kind of form this little, friendship where they start talking to each other, and then something happens and they escape from the military base. And so it's basically him and Wynn on this like little adventure of I'd say it kind of like has like a road trip aspect to it. Like it's like they go through like these areas. They're going into like what they call the wastes, which is like this wasteland area of what used to be basically Earth. This series kind of reminds me very similar of, if you've read Ruby Dixon's Fire Dragon series. I haven't gotten into it yet. I read like a couple of the books. I wasn't really impressed with it, but I need to get back into it and see if I can actually like any of the books. But it's dragon shifters in that series, where there was like some kind of tear in the universe, and it brought these dragon shifters onto Earth, which basically decimated the planet, So it's kind of very similar with this, where this story is like these monsters all of a sudden came on Earth. And so you get to know more of like how they came to be there, and the soul eater's like job of what he does. And it was really interesting. And so you got like these two characters who are both a little leery of each other, but they're also intrigued with each other. And the more time they spend with each other, the more they become attracted and, obviously want to get together. So I liked this. But you definitely have like both these characters, like Wynn definitely suffers from, he doesn't want to lift up his hood. Like, so mostly throughout the story, you have it to where Danny does not see Win's face. It's just, darkness. And so Win is like, really insecure about showing himself. So what happens is Win's one friend, Edin, shows up. And so kind of gets like to where Danny knows a little bit more of like Win from Edin. Edin kind of like spills the beans a little bit and kind of explains a little bit about why Win is the way he is. And so it was kind of like their buildup of their relationship. And I did enjoy it. I first gave it like 4 stars, like, I'll give it 4. But then when I went into the second book, I was like, you know what? I'm going to give Soul Eater 5 because I really enjoyed that one a lot more. So, but I really liked the story. It was really interesting. And it's definitely one of those ones where you have to read book 1 first. If you go into book 2 or book 3, you are going to be completely lost. You have to like stick with the series in order. That's pretty much how it is. You cannot go in, not knowing what's going on. So you have to read the first book, and it kind of delves into a little bit more of the story. But yeah, I really liked that one. And also, I will say Danny was also a little bit insecure himself. Both of them were kind of insecure with each other. And Win was also very protective of Danny, very protective of Danny. Once he kind of like started forming a connection with him, he was very protective of him. So then the second book I ended up reading in the series was Edin. Now, Edin is a big purple monster looking guy. I will show like the fan art. Let me show the fan art first. So the fan art of Danny and Win, I'll put it right here. Someone had went and drew this on Instagram. I was like, okay, that's supposedly what the characters look like. So the second book, Edin, is we have this purple big guy. And he likes to roam around, Earth and all that stuff. And he's very much where Win, the character of Win in the first book, the Soul Eater, is very mysterious and kind of like grumpy, a grump. The character of Edin is very much like, he's very like happy-go-lucky, and he, can really look intimidating because he is big and tall, but he's very like friendly and, just good-natured, just not mean or anything, doesn't really show like any kind of like, like when you start talking to him, you're like, oh, he seems very, very friendly. And so Hunter and his friend Charlie are both in the military, and they go to their base because they haven't heard anything back from their base. They were supposed to get picked up to be, back at their base. And so they managed to get there by walking there, and they realized their base was just completely decimated. So they decide to head to a different base. And when they go to a different base, there's like these bug-like creatures. They go and they kidnap Charlie. Hunter goes to like help Charlie, but he ends up falling through this sinkhole. Now he ends up like holding on to like this pipe, and he's screaming for help. And who comes along but Edin? Edin goes and looks down, and he's like, hello, human. Just like all like happy-go-lucky, like kind of like, what you doing down there, man? So he definitely had more of a good-natured didn't like to show like too much negativity and all that stuff. He was really kind of more of a nice, good-natured monster. You would think that he'd be intimidating, but you know, obviously once you get to know him, you're like, this guy's a big teddy bear. He's like a big teddy bear. So he's like really tall and muscular. He wears a kilt. He wears a kilt, and he has horns, and he's got these fangs, and he has a tail. So the artwork of what this person drew, I was like, okay, I can kind of picture, you know, Edin this way. So I'll put the artwork up. I found this stuff on like Instagram. So the story is Hunter and Edin going to try to get Charlie, you know, away from these like bug-like creatures. So it's basically their story. And then also Wynn and Danny make an appearance from the first book. They make an appearance in here, and they are, you know, basically helping to try to, you know, get Charlie. So it's Hunter's and Edin's love story. And I liked this one too, not as much as the first book. I'll just say that. I gave this one here 4 stars. And I will say, like, the things with Hunter that kind of bothered me like a little bit with him is that he was so stubborn. Like, he did not want to admit that he was in pain. Like, another thing about him was that he was a scarred hero, I guess you would say. Like, he had previously gone into like fights with other monsters and stuff like that, trying to kill them, and he ended up getting like scarred like right here by his mouth, so it made like part of his lip kind of like tilt down a little bit, like he had a grimace. So he obviously was insecure about that. And then he was insecure about his leg. He ended up getting like part of his leg removed from a monster attack, and so he had a prosthetic. Well, anybody who has had a prosthetic, if you walk around for like, you know, all day with that, you know, it's gonna hurt because you're putting all this pressure on like a, you know, whatever is left of your appendage. So at the end of the day, you know, he's like, his leg is hurting him and all that stuff. He's got to like put like obviously some kind of cream on the stump area where what used to be his leg, so that way it doesn't leave blisters and things like that. So he doesn't want to admit that he's in pain from doing like hours of walking on his feet. So he like wants to be stubborn, and he doesn't want to, you know, look as maybe, you know, less than type of thing. So he gets very stubborn with his ways and stuff. And so Edin is very he brings out like Hunter's vulnerability, and definitely brought out like a softer side to Hunter, because Hunter was very kind of like hard. He had to be kind of hard, like, you know, you're in the military, so you kind of have to have this like tough facade and all that stuff. So Edin really brought out like Hunter's vulnerability and softer side, and I enjoyed this one too. But like I said, not as much as the first book, but it was still enjoyable for me to give it 4 stars. Now I'm definitely going to continue on with the series, but I think I'm going to do that like, I'm going to do the same thing as I've done before, where at nighttime I kind of read my Kindle book, and then in the daytime I try to pick up like a physical copy, so that way I can kind of get through some of my physical books and stuff. So I might end up doing that. So it might take me a little bit longer to get through the 3rd book in this series, but I'd say so far I have enjoyed the series. It is interesting. It's a very interesting series, and I'm definitely looking forward to like the continuation onto like the story of like the 3rd book. And I think obviously I think Charlie does have like a love story too. I'm not sure which book that is, but I think I thought I saw like some more kind of like fan art, and had him in it with some other type of like creature and stuff. So I definitely need to read on continuation with the series, because it is it's very interesting. But yeah, I definitely say, like, yes, if you are a fan of like Ruby Dixon's like dragon series, definitely the Draconi series or whatever it's called, you probably would really like this one here, because it's definitely interesting. I will give it that. So yeah, that's it for this here. Have yourselves a good day. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to each other. And I will see you all on the next video. All right. Bye.